as part of today's session, we're really going to be focusing on networking and collaboration, and how can we use all the experiences that we've shared over these 9 sessions. Maybe you've come to each and every one, maybe you've come to a few, or maybe this is your first one. But bringing your ideas for community engagement, how can we now actually make them happen? So Gajal, if you go to the next slide. So we've done a sort of brief introduction, but what we're going to move into is sharing our project ideas. So you may have ideas that you would like to now develop as part of this session. And what we're first going to do is, in the first breakout, each of us will share our project idea and discuss what we'd like to achieve. So there are a few key questions that we've prepared to help us think through these ideas. And then following that, we'll come back into the main room, we'll share what these ideas are. And then in our groups, we'll pick one project idea within the group that we would like to develop further. And then we'll move back into our breakout session and think about how do we make it happen. So there'll be, again, questions there to guide us. So if we just go to the next slide, for our first breakout room, we're going to discuss what the idea is, how will the idea serve the community. So who in the community does it serve? How will the idea serve the community? And how do you know there is a need? Also, we might think about what are the links that we already have in the community that we could leverage to help us deliver the project. And then what key outcomes do we hope to achieve? So outcomes could be the number of people you engage, the anecdotal feedback you receive, the learnings that the participants might gain. So what I've kind of done is, these are the types of questions that a funder might ask you when you are looking to apply for funding to develop a project. So this framework helps us to think about what the project is and how it's going to serve the need of the community we're working with, but also in the context of how can we use these questions to really help us answer the questions that funders are asking. And this is sort of would be question 1 on a funding application. Really understanding what the community need is and how we're going to serve them. I will go to the next slide just to introduce the questions for the next part, just so you've got that in your mind as well. So if we just pop over to the next slide, Gajal, thank you. So in the second part, we'll be looking at how do we then bring the project to life. So what will your project be called? What are the key activities you will deliver? Who will be involved in project delivery? What is the timeline for delivery? What are your key costs? And how will you achieve key impacts and outcomes? So that's going to come later on in the second part of the session. So what we can do now is, maybe if we jump back to the previous slide, if you'd like to, you can note down those questions, or I think we should be able to share them in the chat as well. But if you just take a note of those questions, and then we can come back and move into our breakout rooms, and then we'll begin sharing our project ideas. So if you've just got those questions there. And then what we hope to do is, some of these ideas we maybe then we'll be able to take them forward, and perhaps this is one of the outcomes from our Ways to Wellbeing project, where we do have now real life projects which we can now go on to develop, which is one of the outcomes of this project in itself. So that's really key and a brilliant outcome, I would say.
Yeah, it was something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It was something that our funder, Beth, who some of you met yesterday and the day before, was really excited about. She was really excited about this particular thing as an outcome, how, you know, especially it being towards the end of the session, she liked the kind of thread of ideas and, you know, different people presenting. She liked the whole collaborative aspects of it. So these are all things that I think, you know, for lack of a better term, do tick boxes, but, you know, it really is about looking at what is the actual need, you know, how are you actually serving people in the community's needs.
Whoever would like to go first, which which group would like to share first? So,
Do you want to,
does anyone want to go first?
I can go on, Laura.
Yeah, I can go. I mean, yes, I was with I don't know. I assume your name was SJ, but it might not be.
It's Sunila.
Sunila, okay. I was in group with Sunila and Krishna, and we started, chatting around our projects, and we focused a lot of what Krishna would like to do with, getting the community involved in visiting cultural spaces in an area where she's living. Maybe she can share a bit more about that as well. And then a bit of the experience of Sunila, where she's coming from and what her projects were in India, and how she's navigating, a different environment here in the UK, because that's also, I think, very relevant in the sense to some of the questions we had about how do you see your projects serving your community, or how do you get to know, in a sense, your community if you're not familiar with this context. So very interesting question and discussion there. Yes, Krishna, Sunila, if you want to add anything to this.
Sorry, Sunila, could you tell, I don't know anything about your projects. I'd like to hear something.
So if we go back to the questions of what is that idea, so being very specific about what that idea is and how does it serve the community. So being a bit...
Let's say that maybe Krishna was the one that really has already an idea of what she wants to do, in a sense.
Okay, if I may come in. The idea is to start a kind of a project is, the title of it, I've had it in my head for a long time. It's called Cultural Connections. And basically taking, London is quite very diverse community, but doesn't mean it's always mixes that well or people go into each other's spaces. So my idea is having worked with particularly the vulnerable community in the past, I feel they in particular don't tend to access spaces that everyday other people would. And I ran a group for the mental health charity Rethink, carers group. And we used to take people out to say, one of the trips was Kew Gardens, I took them to. And it was so well received. And I've heard the need for it in the Zoom group that I talked about before. In fact, the ladies have contacted me if I can take and lead a group out on this coming Tuesday. So we're going to do that. Maybe just have a coffee, a few of us together. And the vulnerable community affected by, particularly the one affected by mental health, they only tend to go within a sphere of, say, 2 to 4 miles. This is something I've tried to talk to many politicians and people that, this community needs help. And sometimes you listen to, sometimes you not. But that's the general idea that and also the provision, as Laura said to me, the people who provide these things like art galleries and museums and so forth, we tend to do it only in one language. So that also maybe is a barrier to certain age groups and certain people. So, maybe that's where, I feel that's where work needs to be done. I've already approached, I think it's one of the galleries in Greenwich, but I didn't get that much response from there. A little while ago it was, but I feel the time is right now to start perhaps working towards that. So.
No, that's super, Krishna. And I think with your approach of now you've started contacting a gallery and kind of exploring that's moving into the next part of how do we kind of operationalize what our idea is. Sunila, I'd like to encourage you to share your idea as well. I'd be very interested to know what your idea was.
Actually, I was telling my group that I'm new to the UK and I'm still trying to find, but in India, I used to work among women and children, especially in slums and financially, economically weak background. So I used to work with them, with a team. So we did different projects with them. And the one thing which really challenged me was the emotional health of women and children of economical, low economical status, because this is something they can't afford and they don't have awareness, yet they need it the most. So my heart really goes for that. Yeah.
And with emotional health, is it more therapeutic, or was it kind of, how do you describe that? What kind of work was that?
I used to take small workshops for them, and that itself was like an eye-opening for them. Like, they didn't know anything related that their kids have emotional needs, and the touch matters, and kind word matter, and
Yeah.
like they were not even aware of it. So I think it's a vast need, which like the awareness itself, bringing in the awareness and teaching the skills, especially the communication skills, and understanding how the developmental stages of a child and how to bring them about, even though they struggle financially, but then making effort toward it. It's something, with whatever resources they have, their availability and everything. I remember one incident that really broke my heart. Like this, I worked with a team, and this lady was from Holland, the one who was leading our team, and we used to go to a slum in Delhi around 10 o'clock, because most of the parents have gone by the time. She was running a small dispensary there, and what she would do, this lady would make milk for small kids, and we would go in homes and would take the kids. And I remember this one particular girl, she licked me because she was so hungry. And these children will wait till evening, till their parents come. Little babies, small boys and girls have no one to take care of them, and just there, so that really broke my heart. And I could see, I mean, I can't blame the parents because none of them are there, but then for them to survive life, it's what they need to do. So this one incident really broke my heart, and I really started, then whatever opportunity I got, I started going among them, started working with NGOs, trying to bring awareness, especially for children, and women, and how to take care of themselves so that they can better take care of their children, and how their emotional health and physical health is really important. So yeah,
I
so
think that's really inspiring, what the project that you were working on. And with your idea, is it to raise awareness of that situation here in the UK, to maybe fundraise or just raise awareness of that community you are supporting, or
yeah.
or is it sort of doing a similar thing but here in the UK? And it could be both, why not?
Yeah, definitely. I'm still looking for my options.
Okay.
I'm still trying to, clear certain things, like, what I exactly want to do. But yeah, the emotional health and, mental health, it really challenges me. And I would do anything, and with any NGOs, because at particular, I'm a student here and I don't have so much of freedom to work, or, yeah, and yeah, so
Which university are you based at?
University of Derby.
In Derby, okay.
Yeah.
So I would say you've got a wealth of resource at the university itself, because I'm sure the university has many universities. So I know De Montfort, Leicester, they have a civic engagement forum where they really want to support the communities that they're based within. So maybe seeing if you could find out what the university is doing. But again, we're moving into the operational side. So let's save that for the next bit. So does anybody else want to share their idea? Thank you to Krishna and Sunila for sharing, and Laura as well.
I think in our group, just to summarize, if that's okay with Sam and Charlotte. So Sam got this organization called Seed of the Forest, and she was talking about organizing a workshop around non-violent communication to support groups and communities that do work in communities. And then, so this was kind of the main idea. And I didn't interject on kind of commented that maybe we could also an asset-based community development training in Leicester for any groups and communities that may need to more support and understand the methodology to develop communities from this perspective. So asset-based community development, for those who don't know, is about building our communities from their asset, capacities, and gifts, on starting from that basis, and then from there you build upon what they have to address problems in a set context. I think Charlotte was mentioning the fact that she's engaging in a new practice, which is gardening, and she's slowly building communities or creating links. So she's at the beginning of the journey, but I'm sure something more will develop over time, as she's wanted to develop a career in gardening, especially.
Yeah.
On me, yeah.
Yeah, I've also been doing, so I've already do a lot of, my life's complicated. I'm already very much in and doing a lot of community stuff. As I have a big Facebook group called Waste Not Leicestershire, Reduce, Reuse and Recycle, that's nearly 5 years old. A community of people exchanging unwanted items across Leicestershire, but also to help people think about the stuff that they buy, the stuff that they use, what happens to it at the end of its life, you know, reducing consumerism in that sense, the circular economy, inspiring people to do more where they live, building connections between people, friendship groups, etc. You know, all those kind of things, saving people money, you know, lots of things. So that's one thing. And then 4 years ago, this September, I started the Leicestershire Community Cupboard, and the aim of that was, and still is, but I'm not sure where I'm going with it all at the moment, because I'm trying to figure out my own finances, which is why I've kind of shifting into gardening from childcare, basically. But basically, the Community Cupboard set up to help anybody across Leicestershire in that sense, and maybe beyond, but it's not gone out of Leicestershire yet, with material support. So clothing and household items and baby equipment and all kinds of stuff like that, really. So similar things that come through Waste Not Leicestershire, but with a more focused point of helping families out that might need help with clothing. And then some of the stuff that's developed through that is, for example, when my children were little, I had friends that had children at the same sort of times and had boys as well, like I've got. So we used to do bin bag swaps of clothing. Well, the only way that that works is if you know people in your community or you have friends that have children at the same time. Without that, you don't have the access to it. And buying clothing for children is really expensive. But not only that, when a child's quite young, they don't wear the clothing. So I basically have a 20-foot storage container, which I pay rent for. And in that is clothing from naught up to teens, basically. And I would get contacted by various women's charities or work through some local councils and through people that support refugees in Leicester. Sort of, it's never had a criteria. It's just there as a resource to help whoever needed that help, basically. And that's, I didn't want it to have, you know, there are lots of charities and things out there that help people, but you have to tick a box. And if you don't fit a certain criteria, then you can't access it. And for me, that was just like, this is ridiculous, because there are so many, from my experience of running Waste Not, there's just so much stuff out there that people buy and then discard. I've only just scratched the surface. And, you know, to take the opportunity away from someone, or you can't have this because you don't tick this box, was like, I can't comprehend that. I'm not going to be one of those kind of organisations. So yeah, and I know people sometimes take advantage of that, but like the 1% that do, there's the other 99% that are genuine in that sense or directly need the help. So I was doing a lot of donations coming in, sorting out donations and then shipping them back off to people, basically. And I could do that because I was, well, I still am, a self-employed childminder. And then COVID's come along and kind of taken that business away, and I've got to kind of reinvent myself and decide how I'm going to earn my income in the future. So dynamics have changed a bit for me, but there's still a lot there that needs to be worked on and developed. And I have lost some of my passion for it, and that's because I've had a lot of personal stuff going on in my life as well, which has really like knocked me off my feet, to be honest. My enthusiasm's coming back, And I think what I'm doing moving forward is trying to form a committee for it, so that not all of it's on me, because now I've started putting myself first, which is something I wasn't doing before. I'm starting to say no a little bit more, which is good, saying no. But it's taken me over a year to get there. And before that, I was burying my head in the sand a lot. If I'd business planned any of this before, in that sense, I don't think I would have done it. So I've literally like gone the other way around and just put myself fully into it, and then it's kind of developed after. But the network that I've created by Waste Not and by the community cupboard is huge, and I have people all the time offering me things outside of Waste Not that want me to put stuff onto Waste Not to get rid of, say, like carpets and things like that. And I have people contacting me from, like I said, the Leicestershire Police, saying, we've got a woman that's escaped DV and they literally have nothing. Have you got girls' clothing 2 to 3 and boys' clothing 4 to 5? That was a recent request I had. So there are things that filter through. And when I get back on track with it, if that's what I decide I'm doing, and build this committee and all the rest of it, then maybe it goes further and does what it needs to do again. I was contemplating becoming a community interest company last April for it, with the help and support of Dorothy Francis from Case in Leicester, and then obviously COVID, and she got COVID and was very unwell, and so, and I kind of was focusing on it and being my future job, but I'm not sure I'm in that place anymore. It was like kind of understanding or not understanding how to monetize it in that sense. That's what I'm struggling with. Yeah.
That's very good to know about the financial sustainability of all those projects and things like that. And I think it in itself is a project to actually figure out how we can focus on its well-being as well.
How to work out community need? Well, I've experienced it. You know, I've made links with lots of people. So although I'm just the community cupboard myself, there are other organisations across Leicestershire that are supporting different groups of people. So I've linked up with them as sort of natural course.
Yeah, but you've been the linchpin, Charlotte. You've done the vast amount of work constantly.
Yeah.
You've been the continued presence. I mean, I know you've had some help, but you've run it all and you've set it all up, and you have worn yourself out. And then as you said, other factors have come in as well.
Yeah.
And you've discovered gardening, which is lovely. Not, I know it's not the right reasons, but it is lovely.
Yeah.
And I think it's really a good idea to move it to a committee basis, because I think it's very difficult for people to maintain energy. You know, this is something I see in voluntary projects across everywhere, is that there's 1 or 2 key volunteers that drive something forward. And if those volunteers have any kind of experience that makes them pull back, then it puts the project in a shaky position. So I think it's very much going forward, you know, if we want to develop community and well-being for ourselves, is how we can design things so that not so much falls on individuals and we can share that out.
Sharing the load of it. And I have
we expect, sorry. We experience the same with Leicester Fixes as well. So I've been running it for 6 years, developing repair events across Leicester and Leicestershire and Rutland as well, until we reach out to Breakout point. So it's kind of like really looking at building capacity over time on reassessing what are our priorities. And I think for me, like at the moment, what I was discussing, the project idea that I've got is really focusing on my primary school, which is Bonston Frith, on looking at how we can obviously introduce this idea of well-being. Maybe we were discussing with Yoga about yoga, but they've got a garden as well, and I love the idea of gardening, and we could do some eco swap. And I did in the past with Leicester Fixes deliver session into a school in Colville, so whether we can do repair event within the school, so consolidate all the things that exist already, but trying it in one school setting, and then seeing if the model work, and then inspire other schools to do the same, because I think the schools are definitely a very significant asset into disseminating information in the local area, because all the children are from the area themselves. So so this is it for me, but I'm sure there is the other groups that need to share as well, and we haven't got much time. So
we invite Nicola to share her idea from our group, because that's what we focused on.
I was just doing comment on Durga's model of how she's extended from the yoga to then involving other schools and other cities. That's something similar to what you're suggesting, Marie, and Charlotte's alluded to. But there's enough to do locally. That's similar to the project that I'm involved in, which I mentioned in one of the groups. So I've got my background was health and social care, but my interest is always nature and being outside and doing things outside and all the rest of it. And so I'm interested in both people, but also wildlife. And I've got involved in Eco Church. And I was just saying to the group, the reason that's come to the fore this year in particular, the charity that's set it up has been running for a few years now. And quite, places were taking part. I'd visited a place in Kenilworth and seen that they'd been taking part. There was something similar 30 years ago that took place in different parts of the country. But this charity has got behind it, has got a structure, has linked up with other organisations with similar interests, and has now got a framework that is used nationally. It's multi-faith, non-denominational, but there's now such a momentum behind it that there's experience in the different faith groups that will support any faith group. So I'm coming at it currently from a Church of England Methodist background. That's the grouping that I'm within at the moment, which is fortunate because the Methodist Church has got behind it in our area, and the Anglican Church is behind it in our area. So I'm, it's a good opportunity for us to pick it up. And I've also mentioned it at Churches Together, which is the multi-denominational group locally. So there's some interest in other sectors. So what I'm wanting to do is move from our church developing an interest within the last 6 months. So we're just getting off the ground and have successfully achieved the first level of self-audit, which is described as the Bronze Award. Heard that on Friday, so that's great.
Well done.
So we want to develop what we're doing. That was just an assessment of where we are now. But even doing that had got people to think about recycling, to think about how we manage the land, to organise a nature survey, all those things that would help us to be more eco-friendly. And so we want to obviously do more. That's the whole reason we started it, for ourselves, for our particular site. But actually my ambition is to share that idea with others who are, both the ones who are keen and the ones that are going to find it more difficult, but also to take it outside the faith circle. To me, it's about community, and both for our local group to be more involved with the community anyway, and to be a resource for the community. But also, I probably like Sam, I think it's something we should all be doing. It's not something that's just specific to any group, but it's easier to start somewhere and start within a group to actually make it manageable. So we were discussing how I should define what the project is, because apart from saying, well, let's start by looking where we are, we need to actually describe what the project is, see how it meets the need, think about what Durga and others have said about the deliverables. And actually, yes, I've got a framework to tap into and I've got networks to link into, but I need to make it more. I'm not very good at, I'm a bit over ambitious at times in my projects, so I need to actually project manage it.
And what I shared with Nicola was that, yes, it's important to have that ambition, and that's how you get things out there in the world. But also, what is that model that you've developed, which others can then very easily replicate, of course, with your guidance, and they may have questions, but how can they replicate what you're doing to be able to achieve what you've achieved in your community? And what support do you offer as well? So that model of dissemination, but how is that going to be achieved? Sam, did you have something to say? I
just wanted to know, Nicola, where are you? Which?
This is Leicester Forest East.
Leicester Forest East, because St Dennis is doing
boundary, but I'm sure we can share ideas.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I'm doing some support for St Dennis in Evington with their Eco Church, and we ran an interfaith footpath group over Zoom, and there's a lot going on with that at the moment around. Footpaths is a carbon reduction program for individuals, but yes. there's been the interface one, but there's been a whole range of new facilitators just trained up for that as well, that are kind of from different faith backgrounds. So I've been doing some stuff with Hindu Climate Action,
I mentioned that because I thought it was you that had given me the link for that.
Yeah.
Because I haven't spoken to, but I've contacted the lady that you mentioned that did that talk and that's doing the work.
Yeah, and there's a new eco-Muslim group in Leicester called Green Guardians, so I'm sure that, you know, I don't know if there's any equivalent of the Eco Church program for temples and mosques, but I think that could be. I could definitely give you contacts for people that.
Yeah,
are,
I think there is.
What I'm going to do now is, if we move into the second breakout group, because I think we've started already moving into how can we make these ideas happen and who are we going to work with. So, Gajal, if we just bring up the questions for the second breakout room once again, if we bring them onto the screen. And it's great that we've already started thinking about who are the partners we could potentially collaborate with, and how are we going to bring about and showcase the model we've developed or are still developing, and how can we take that out to other people to bring these ideas to life. As Krishna mentioned, she's got a name for her project already, and I think that's really important, because what your project is called, your project title, your project name, that's the brand that you're going to begin to develop, and that's how other people will recognize what you're doing. So what will your project be called? Giving it a name is really important. What are the key activities that you will deliver? And many of you have already started or are already way into the journey of delivering already. So maybe it's about focus and finding what are those key focus areas will help you continue achieving the impact that you already are achieving. Then it's about who is involved. And here the question of team comes up. So we did kind of touch on this when we said that if there are 2 or 3 key volunteers, and if one of them falls back for whatever reason, what's going to happen to the project? So in terms of team and sustainability, that's something to think about. And then we also touched on timeline for delivery. So in our group, we kind of started talking about what do we want to achieve in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, and then by the end of the year. What are the key costs? And then coming back to your impact and outcomes. So it is quite a lot to discuss in the next 15 minutes that we have. So in each group, if you pick one project and then focus on that one project, which we can feed back on when we come back to the main session.
I'll start if you like. I am going to talk to my colleague Sarah Spencer about this non-violent communication thing and see if I can loop in Marie, she doesn't know this yet, and have a conversation about the asset-based community development.
Super, thank you, Sam. Who would like to go next? Nicola?
I'm going to create a project plan.
I think so. That's very simple, focused and straightforward, moving into developing that project plan. And I think there are many people in the group here, including myself, who would be happy to support you with that. So of course, do feel free to reach out. So yeah, getting it down on paper so other people can come and read it, add feedback and take your project out further. Excellent. Somebody else. Charlotte, yeah.
I'm going to try and contact the people that have already come forward and offered to support me, and they've been there, some of them have been there for quite a while, and I'm going to try and sort out an initial meeting with how I move forward, and I'm probably going to reach back out to Dorothy Francis at Case as well to discuss my structural options again prior to having a meeting with the other people, because I think I do need to have some focus before I set up a meeting, because otherwise it would be like just a general chit chat with some people in the garden and I'll just be like everywhere. So I need to kind of reach out to those people and find out what their skills are as well, and then work out what areas initially I'd need those skills in.
Definitely. So you're now moving towards kind of organization setup in a way.
Yeah,
trust, and I think that's a great first step. So there are people who are interested in what you're working on, they want to engage, and now it's about you kind of organizing that space for them to share their skills, experiences, and also maybe think about that value exchange. So what are you able to offer them in return for the value they're sharing as well, because there is always the question of what's in it for me, even if it's not from a financial perspective, but what are they gaining out of that experience of working and engaging with you? And that's important to think about as we build a team. So excellent. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Does somebody else want to go next?
I just wanted to say that Dr. Marie sort of said, when we discussed it further, I realized that the timeline that I have to kind of aim for and the connections I have to make. So I'm giving myself about 3 months to do that in the next. And one of the things will be, hopefully, Durga, I'll be contacting you and perhaps Beth as well to sort of push it forward a bit, because at the moment it's in the head and it's to get it. So Marie, made me think already, and I'm going to set myself timelines now too.
Excellent. And setting those dates, they're a deadline for ourselves, but then also it makes us accountable to our own project. So having that timeline in mind gives you, for me, it's always like, oh no, the deadline's coming up. I need to act. I need to get this ticked off my list. So it just gives me that extra push to make sure that I'm on track with what I'm doing. So getting your timeline in place will be really important.
Great, thank you.
Sunila, would you like to share your action point?
As I told you before, I just, I'm just processing everything right now, like what I've been doing and the transition I'm having right now in my life. And I don't think at this point I'm able to decide on anything, but I'm definitely going to give it a, try to find out what's my personal, passion and mission. And what I want to do about it. And, just to for me, it was just an introductory section because I've not thought about it before. And I just attended our personal well-being session. So it was the continuation of it. And I thought I would attend this because I really like those sessions. So I'm started thinking about it.
Okay. And I think that actually is one of the most important things you can do before launching into a journey. It's always knowing your reason why. Why am I doing this? What's the meaning behind it? And for those of you who joined my session where I spoke about money, meaning, and mastery, spending time on that meaning circle and thinking about what am I doing and why is very important, because when you do face challenges, when things don't go as you planned, it's something you can always come back to. You can always find that meaning again to re-energize and re-motivate yourself and help you push forward. So always spend that time thinking about what am I doing? Why do I want to achieve this? And that kind of space of going inside before you reach outside and connect is really key as well. So thank you. Yeah,
can I just ask Sunila, are you living in Derby or Leicester?
I'm living in Leicester.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what you said. Thanks.
Yeah.
Super. What are you studying at university?
I'm doing my master's in counseling and psychotherapy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that unless Kajal and Marie, would you like to share any action points? I think Kajal, if you mention what you said about how we're taking this Ways to Wellbeing forward, I think that would be really great for the participants here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, a couple of people have asked, a lot of people asking, and when they ask, it's like, oh, I don't know. But I think in summary, this session has really been helpful for me anyway. Maybe Marie's got some thoughts as well. But for me, the 3 action points are really defining, I think, how the project, not in this particular order, but how the project is going to look is a reiteration. We definitely need a bigger team to do that. So obviously securing funding to make the next offering, I think, just a bit more kind of manageable, but also, just to make it better, however we can to improve it. Secondly, we need funding to actually improve the brand identity of Lightseekers itself, because right now we haven't even got really a functioning website. It's all just all over the place. So we really need to kind of clean that up. Thirdly is we want to kind of offer this as a package I guess in the same way that you've been talking about what Mindful Warriors is doing. You know, we feel like there is a need for what we're doing, or I feel like there is a need for what we're doing. So it would be really, really good to have some sort of sustainable business model. So we'll definitely be reaching out to you, but I feel like we need funding to pay for your services as well. You know? So maybe you can help us to get that funding, you know.
No, why not? That's where it begins. And Laura, sorry I didn't ask you your one key action point.
Finding out where we're going to be in September.
Where am I going to be? That's important as well. Super. Well, I guess I'll hand over back to Marie, and you can share your action point, and I think we're then closing the session. So thank you all for your participation and contribution, and I hope the connections you've made here certainly carry forward, and we will keep in touch for sure.
Sorry, could I just interrupt? Is it possible for us to exchange? I know I'm the only one sort of seems to be from this part of the world, but as in Northwest London, but would be nice to exchange. I don't know how we can do that, because in case in future we need the contacts, if everybody feels okay about it, just thought I'll ask. Thank you.
I'm really happy for my email address to be shared, that you're, whichever one you're holding for me. Many
Same
emails,
for
but,
me.
The one in this particular room can just raise their hands if they're okay, if their contact details are being shared with others. All right, everyone. So just amongst ourselves, because we don't ask the other as part of the program, so that you can contact each other. Then I think my main point of action is reflection. I think I need to digest a lot, you know, what we all the collected stories that we gathered through this project, and then I need to review like the list of people that I've met through the project and be like, who, this person, I need to contact them back for this, and this person I need to contact them back for that. So I need to do that, and then once I've kind of have this, and maybe work with Schedule or some others, a core group of people, and just kind of defined exactly what is the step moving forward as a whole. I really want to do something in my primary school. I really want to consolidate like seekers. I still got my work with Quetzal. I still want to take over the world. So having said that, and having taken over the world is about learning every single time to become better, and then supporting our communities to flourish and to understand better how to connect to themselves first, and then appropriately with others. So I hope Ways to Wellbeing will continue in all its various forms with our support. So thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
everybody.
think the beauty of what we're doing also is that everybody here, all our projects seem to be kind of interconnected in a way. So I feel like what a lot of the physical space.
I just noticed you took a picture, Kajal. Is that okay for everyone to have their picture shared? Or you prefer not? You sure? Okay.
That's fine.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it was just I pressed something by accident.
All right.
So basically, so hopefully we were talking about maybe having some sort of physical space in the future. So it would be really nice if we can continue this discussion to see if there is a way where these things can happen collectively. Especially with Charlotte, with the community cupboard, I feel like there's a real space. You know, you're looking at actually physical space, you know.
Well, yeah, the community cupboard, that was always my idea, that I would have physical space for it, because some of the stuff I've done in the past with supporting women with clothing is that, you know, although people are grateful for help and support, you know, individual taste in clothing is like, you know, something that someone's identity. So you give away a bag full of clothing, not knowing really what that person wears or what they like or what they don't like. So then that still creates some waste where they've got stuff that they don't actually want, or, you know, people that haven't got anything are generally happy for whatever. But it's that thing about building someone's confidence and providing them with a nice top or a dress. So I was like, well, really, I need the community cupboard to be somewhere so that people can come in and they still can have a clothing donation, but they can actually pick what they'd like to wear, rather than me just going, oh, they might like this and they might like that, which is not very personal. So, and then I was thinking, if I had a building, then it would have a garden where people could come and do gardening, or, you know, just sit in nature, because if you live in a flat, maybe you've not got access to a garden, or it'd be a space that other people could use for doing workshops of different things, whatever they were and whatever came through, sort of thing. So that was all, that was almost my plan. And I've driven around Leicester many times looking at empty buildings and longing that it'd be there.
Yeah.
I think we've been seeking a building for that kind of work in Leicester forever, and
that sounds like
buildings, you know, I think we're still waiting for the dream building, for the green stuff, for the gardening, for the community connections. Yeah. One day it will come.
Dream big.
Yeah,
thank you.
Just quickly, the amount of people that we're talking about the same thing, I think there really is a lot of scope to approach the council collectively at some stage, you know.
Yeah,